but understand we're not dealing with a normal person here. This guy's not normal. He's evil. He's irrational. He's got a history of drug use. You know, those people that want to call meth low-level nonviolent? Here's another sign.
And in Florida, a tragic incident unfolded as a 37-year-old named Stephen Thomas Rodda was apprehended on charges of allegedly using a power tool to fatally harm his 16-year-old son, Stephen Lee Rodda, inside a mobile home in Lake Wales, Florida. The teenager had been staying with his grandfather while his grandmother was undergoing rehab. On Monday morning, as the victim's grandfather, Thomas Rodda, returned home after spending several hours visiting his wife, he was confronted outside by his son, the alleged perpetrator, Stephen Thomas Rodda. The suspect reportedly cautioned his father, saying, "I wouldn't go in there if I were you. I killed someone. You may need to call the police." Upon entering the home, the victim's grandfather tragically discovered the victim deceased in the dining room area. Sheriff Judd mentions that while the investigation is in its early stages, it appears that the suspect used an angle grinder, a handheld power tool designed for abrasive cutting and polishing, to commit the alleged crime. Stephen Thomas Rodda was apprehended approximately a mile away from the scene on Highway 60. It remains uncertain whether he has entered a plea or secured an attorney. The sheriff also disclosed that the victim was an 11th grade student at Frostproof Middle Senior High School, pursuing a career as an electrician. He also had plans to begin working at Burger King the following week to save money to purchase a car. The suspect had a criminal history in multiple states. He had actually just come back to Florida from South Carolina. He also previously lived in Texas, Ohio, and Washington, D.C. The sheriff said that the grandfather allegedly told investigators it was not uncommon for Stephen Thomas Rodda to make bizarre comments. We are told that the suspect used methamphetamine since high school, and he has psychotic episodes. This guy has been nothing but a problem to society for a very long time. Now let's hear straight from Grady Judd about this horrific incident.
It's Labor Day afternoon. We're outside of Lake Wales, just west of Lake Wales, and once again, in just 8 days' time, we have another parent that has murdered their child, their teenage child who was only 16. Let me show you Stephen Thomas Rodda. Stephen Thomas Rodda is 37 years of age. He was living down the road here with his grandfather, Thomas Rodda, who was 65 years of age, and our victim, who was 16 years of age, and his parents gave us permission to use his name as Stephen Rodda. Let me first tell you about Stephen Rodda. Stephen went to Frostproof High School. His parents said he was in 11th grade. He was to start work next week at Burger King to earn money so that he could buy a car. He was also studying to be an electrician. That was his dream in life. Stephen Rodda, who's 16 years of age, was a great kid. Not just a good kid, but a great kid. In fact, he was living with his grandfather to help him out while his grandmother was in rehab. That's the kind of kid that Stephen was. Stephen Thomas Rodda, his dad, had just shown up about a month ago. And we asked, where's he been? He's been in D.C., he's been in South Carolina, he's been in Ohio, he's been in Texas. There was even an outstanding warrant for Stephen Thomas Rodda in South Carolina, but South Carolina would not extradite. So he was unable to be arrested. Well, on this particular morning, Thomas Rodda, the grandfather, left about 8 o'clock to go visit with his wife in rehab. When he returned home about 11 o'clock today, he was met outside by our suspect, his son, Stephen Rodda, and his quote was, "I wouldn't go in there if I was you. I killed someone. You may need to call the police." Thomas Rodda told us it was not uncommon for his son, Stephen Rodda, to talk bizarre. We are told that Stephen Rodda used methamphetamine since high school, and he has psychotic episodes. When Thomas Rodda went into the house, into the mobile home, there he saw his grandson, deceased in the dining room, kitchen area. And we know that it appears at the early stage of the investigation. And as we always tell you, the information we give you this soon after an investigation is the best information we have. It's certainly subject to change. But at this time, it appears that our suspect, Stephen Thomas Rodda, used an angle grinder to kill his son. It breaks our heart. There aren't adequate words to explain how horrific this event is. I've talked to the grandmother, the grandfather, the parents are here. And when you see and hear them talk about how wonderful Stephen Rodda, their 16-year-old son, was, how squared away he was, the fact that he was willing to live with his grandfather to help him out while his grandmother was in rehab, the fact that he was scheduled to start working at Burger King next week to earn money while going to high school, he was just a stand-up, stellar young man. To have this worthless individual murder his son is inexplicable. Our homicide detectives will continue to do their work, the investigation. We, by the way, arrested him because he fled from the scene after talking to his father, Thomas Rodda. He fled from the scene, and we caught him about a mile west of here on Highway 60. He was leaving the area. As I said before, he's been from Texas, South Carolina, Ohio, Washington, D.C. He moves around a lot. And after killing his son, he was leaving again. But our deputies, and you've heard me say they're the best there are any place, found him quickly and took him into custody. And when we took him into custody, he told our deputy, "You probably need to read me my rights." And that's exactly what we did. So he is in custody. The community's safe. We don't know yet why Stephen Thomas Rodda attacked and murdered his son, Stephen Rodda. That's under investigation. But our prayers are with the family. And I want you to know that the world lost a great young man today. We lost a great young man, and we've got an evil, evil man in custody, and we're going to do our best to see that he spends the rest of his life in prison. I don't know what else I can tell you. I'll try to answer any questions that you have. You know what we know at this time. Our crime scene detectives, as well as our homicide team, are at the residence. It was the warrant in South Carolina that was outstanding was some kind of resisting warrant, disturbance warrant, probably a misdemeanor warrant. We're still going through his criminal history. He apparently has criminal histories all over the United States. This guy has been nothing but a problem to society for a very long time, a very long time. And now he's turned a problem person into an evil person when he murdered his son and created a horrible set of circumstances for a loving family.
Do you believe that had he been extradited back to South Carolina that this would not have happened?
Certainly, if he'd have been in South Carolina, if that warrant had been available nationwide, he wouldn't have been here today, we hope. Depending on when we found him and extradited him, theoretically he could have posted bond and come back. So that's really a hypothetical. But listen, it's not uncommon for different states to say, hey, we've got a warrant for this person, but as long as he stays out of our state, we don't want to come get him. And that's true on minor charges, and apparently this is a minor charge. We're looking to see what his criminal history contains, and once we run all that down, then our PIOs will release that later on. But we know he's got an extensive criminal history. We know that he's an evil, evil person. We know that he murdered his son today. And that son was a beautiful 16-year-old person, a beautiful 16-year-old person who was just a great kid.
Did the family report him having a violent history?
Excuse me, I can't hear you.
Did the family report him having a violent history?
The family has reported that he's psychotic. He's got a history all the way back to high school of using methamphetamine. I don't know that about any Baker Acts or mental health evaluations, but he's just an evil person. And you go, well, he might have had a mental health issue. Well, of course he did. People don't murder people unless they're nutso. So anybody who murders somebody has a hitch in their giddy up. That doesn't mean they're criminally insane. It just means they're evil and they're mean, and when things don't go their way, they kill people. So he told his father, hey, I've killed somebody in the house, you don't want to go in there? And then he takes off, he's leaving. But our deputies found him, and he's in custody.
Do you think that he may have been on meth? I realize it's probably part of the investigation, but do you believe maybe that was part of what was going on?
We don't know why he did what he did today, other than he's a nasty, nasty, evil person. But that's part of the investigation. Was he on drugs today? We don't know. We're early into this investigation. This all started about 11 o'clock, and we're briefing you, what, 4.5 hours later. There will be other information, I'm certain, as the investigation unfolds.
Where's the 16-year-old's mother, and what is the relationship between the 16-year-old and the dad? Like, why did he come back?
The 16-year-old's mother lives in Lake Wales, and the 16-year-old was staying with his grandfather to help his grandfather because his grandmother is in rehab when the son shows back up here. Apparently, he just moves around the countryside, and when there was no place else to go, he came to his father's house. And then the thank you he showed his father was to murder the son, who is the grandfather of our murder victim, who is a wonderful, wonderful person. Okay?
What exactly is an angle grinder? Is that like a...
An angle grinder is a saw that you can use to cut various things. So if you search it up, it's a pretty heavy-duty saw. Okay?
What do you guys hope to accomplish by having a mobile command center there temporarily?
Yeah, our mobile command center always comes out. It's our mobile office space. And in there we have desks and chairs and computers, and this is where we go to get out of the Florida heat while we're doing a lot of work. There's no other way for us to get together. This mobile command center comes to all of our significant events. Okay?
Was it a pretty full crime scene?
You know, I don't think it's appropriate to discuss the crime scene at this point in time. And I say that for many reasons, most of all because of the family.
And you know, that's one of the things that I love so much about Grady Judd. He gives us the truth. He's transparent about everything, but with tons of respect, always. Loved ones of the victim have set up a GoFundMe campaign to offset the cost for the teenager's funeral, and I will put that link in the description of this video. And you know the drill. Like if you do, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.